Welcome to Inside the Studio of the Podcaster, where we open up the studio doors and look at the equipment, the software, the apps, and the plugins that make it all happen, that podcasters like yourself can't live without. And now, here's your host, Scott Herzog. Well, welcome to episode 4. On this show, I'll be sharing an interview I did with Georg Holzmann, a name you may not recognize, but some of you will recognize the software that he created, Allphonic.com. On the podcast last week, you'll hear Doug Payton, a podcaster's perspective of the software, but we're going to hear tonight Georg Holzmann's the guy that created it, that knows this software inside and out. You're going to hear him talk about Allphonic.com. Now, don't forget that we do have some giveaways that we are still running. We are giving away, we have one code left for Goldwave, so if you're interested in that, just email me and let me know that you want that. If you want to find out what Goldwave is, well, you can go to podcastingguru.com/Goldwave and actually listen to that episode and find out about the awesomeness that editing software is. If you have not done so, I would encourage you to visit the podcastingguru.com site. If you go there, check out the About page. There's a recommendations link that talks about all sorts of people that I've worked with, that have recommended me as a podcaster, that talks about kind of why I have some credibility in this field of podcasting. I know the term podcasting guru might sound a little bit pompous, but I do offer many years of audio recording and expertise in the field. So if you want to hear what people are saying, you can go to /recommendations at podcastingguru.com and find out a little bit more about that. One of the things that people have said and giving me feedback about this show inside the studio of the podcaster, they would love if I would address some terms. Some podcasting terms, whether it be audio editing terms or other podcasting terms. So this is your term of the week, I guess. And I'm going to give it to you in about 3 minutes or less. And our first term is a very basic term that you encounter in podcasting. And for those of you that may not be familiar with it, it's compression. So what is compression? I think compression can sometimes, if you haven't grown up in audio, can be a little bit confusing, especially for first-time podcasters. So here's what it does. When you record, like I'm recording my voice now, my voice is fluctuating up and down. And this is probably the thing that gives podcasters the greatest challenge when you're trying to mix a podcast, is finding that right balance between taking everything that's too loud and taking those things that are really soft and blending them together. That's called a dynamic range. You try to adjust it so you hear everything in just the right proportion. Your voice, your audio intros, and guests are all theoretically at the right level. If you set your level that the majority of the voices are nicely audible in your mix, the lower level words might be a little bit hard to hear, and maybe the loud words might be just slightly overbearing. So let's say you want to get that low vocal up, and you push up your fader, you turn up the volume. The problem is now the high vocals or the loud vocals will suddenly become too loud. No single setting kind of gives a good balance because the difference between the highest and the lowest signals, the dynamic range, is way too large. In comes the compressor. We aren't going to get into compressors tonight regarding hardware versus software, but there is a difference in that. Maybe in a future show we'll talk about that. But compressors remedy this by reducing the sound's dynamic range, compressing the level differences between the louds and the soft words, and the compressor does this by basically turning down or compressing the louder signals so they kind of match the quieter signals more closely, and all it needs is for you is an indication of which signals you think are too loud. Hopefully I didn't confuse you too much about compression. If you have any questions about compression, just let me know at podcastingguru@gmail.com. I have with me Georg Holzmann, the creator of Allphonic an online automated post-production service for broadcasters, podcasters, radio shows, audiobooks, and so much more. I've even run video through Allphonic, and it normalized levels like a charm. Georg, welcome to the show.
Yeah, hello Scott, and thanks a lot for the invitation.
4 weeks ago, if someone would have asked me, what is Allphonic? I wouldn't have been able to tell them a darn thing. And then I encountered Doug Payton just through a series of events, and he's the one that kind of turned me on to it. Before we get to Allphonic, can you tell us a little bit about your background, especially in regards to audio production?
My background is in audio, so actually I'm a sound engineer and computer science programmer. And I did a lot of machine learning and signal processing and also web development and everything. And so Allphonic is somehow a kind of combination of all those topics. So we do machine learning, so we try to analyze audio signals, then we do signal processing. These are all the algorithms you apply to the audio signals. And of course also the web system. So that's a great combination.
It is indeed. Tell me a little bit about the story of Allphonic. How did Allphonic come about?
So actually I was speaking with some podcasters here and they always had similar problems. So one was of course how to manage all those levels and how to create different file versions, so different file formats automatically. So there was not really a program which did all this, and I just thought, okay, that's not that difficult. And so it started with some small scripts to automate some audio processing and audio encoding things. And yeah, then it always became bigger and bigger and more complex. And that's what it is now.
Well, I think one of the things that Allphonic does is it takes a lot of different things that podcasters, I think from our end, podcasters, but again, it's a program that really allows them to do it in such a way that they don't need to know all the details and all the ins and outs about how it works. It's a fairly simple, it's kind of an intuitive and a simple program from the user end.
Yeah, this was exactly the idea. So the users of the program should not be audio experts or audio geeks. So they just select what they want to do and so as less parameters as necessary, because all parameters are confusing. If you look at some standard audio software like VST plugins, you have hundreds of parameters and don't know what to do with them. So actually we wanted to do all automatically, and that's actually, it's possible because of the combination of analyzing the audio file and then processing it. So we first have to know where are music parts in the audio, where are different speakers, or where are just background segments which should not be amplified. And so if you have the knowledge of the audio file, you can then apply all the algorithms automatically.
Yeah, awesome. Now, for someone that's maybe hearing about Allphonic maybe for the first time, what does Allphonic provide for a podcaster? I guess another way of saying it is, what sort of service does it provide for the podcaster? And we kind of hinted around this already, but
basically, if you record a podcast, you have or another recording, then you first have to record the file, then you have the raw version of your audio, and basically all what's necessary to do afterwards is what Allphonic can do for you. So you can use our service, and then we will analyze this audio file and correct levels. So for example, if there are different speakers or music segments, then we correct the levels in these files so that all segments have a similar loudness. And we also do some filtering and noise reduction if necessary. And afterwards, you can encode different media formats with it. For example, an MP3 or AAC or Vorbis file or whatever. And you can also do all the metadata management, which means adding cover images to all of your file formats and tags like titles, artists, and also chapter marks. This is also a very important feature. And afterwards, when all these files are ready, then you can distribute them automatically to your blog server, or for example to Libsyn, to YouTube, SoundCloud, and lots of others. So everything after the recording or after the actual mixing of your podcast, everything afterwards can be done by Allphonic.
It really does provide an all-in-one service. I'm looking at this right now, Alphonic Up, and it allows you even to put licensing credits onto your whatever you're producing, whether it be a podcast or some other type of media. And I think what impressed me about it was when I used, as you heard, if you listen to the first podcast, I used Levelator, to kind of level all my sounds. And that certainly worked to bring all the sounds up. But this allows me to skip using iTunes to enter my metadata or some other program, and allows me to do everything in the same exact spot. And then to set it, I think what really sold me is I'm able to create a preset. So all I need to do is load that preset and upload my file and then hit export, and all my work's done for me, and it streamlines my work.
Yeah, of course. I mean, adding presets is not that difficult in a technical term. So it's just restore your settings, and then you can just recall the settings. That's all. Yeah, of course. It was also inspired by Levelator, because it is still a unique program. But there were many problems with Levelator. For example, if you have music parts, then it will destroy the whole dynamic in your music sections. Or for example, if you have some quiet parts like in lecture recordings, then it also will amplify all these quiet parts, because this program doesn't really know what's inside in the audio. And that's why we have to analyze first all the audio signals. And for example, if there is music, then we don't change the dynamics that much as in speech parts, for example. Or if you have a background signal like breathing or noise or whatever, then we don't amplify it.
So I have it open here, and I do have just a few questions for you. And I know that one of the things that for you listeners out there, if you go to the Allphonic.com website and you actually open up Allphonic and begin to load information into it, all you need to do is hover your mouse over, and it really does give you a short explanation of what that feature does. So for example, one of the things that I had clicked earlier on was the adaptive leveler. And when I put this in with my music, I found that it really minimized my voice over the music. Can you explain a little bit, and just because of that, can you explain just a little bit, what's the difference between like an adaptive leveler and then loudness normalization?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the adaptive leveler, or maybe let's start with loudness normalization. The loudness normalization just calculates the average loudness of your whole track, and then it normalizes to a defined value. So this is, for example, important in television or radio. So since a few years ago, there are now international standards how loud a radio program, or not so much for radio, but especially for television. So there is a standard how loud television should be, and you can just select this value. And then the average loudness of your program will be this value. So this will just calculate one gain value and adjusts the loudness of your track so that it will have this loudness, your loudness target at the end. So the adaptive leveler is a little bit more complex, because this will change loudness differences between different segments in your audio. For example, if you have a quiet speaker and a loudspeaker, then this will change the difference between those so that they become the same or similar. And the loudness normalization will just normalize the average loudness to a specified target, so that, for example, if you do more podcasts and have more episodes, then all episodes will have the similar loudness. I guess that's too complicated.
Basically, with loudness normalization, it takes all my voices, and if like my voice, your vocal, we run it through the track, and if I don't have the levels quite set equally in my mixer, it'll bring my levels, let's say my level's a little bit lower than yours, it'll bring my level up to yours or bring your level down to mine, and that normalizes it. Is that correct?
This is what the adaptive leveler is doing, yes.
So that's what the adaptive leveler.
Yes.
Well, you do give an option for podcasters, though, if they want to not worry about mixing their introduction and their outro, that they can actually upload their own outro and intro, and you'll kind of mix it in for them. Is that correct?
Yes, you can, for example, in your presets, you can store an intro and an outro, and then it will mix to it automatically at the beginning and at the end.
I think one of the other great features of this, and I'm jumping back to the audio algorithms at the bottom of the page, is the noise and the hum reduction. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works? Because so many times you have a really good podcast, but Skype or there's an interference somewhere and there's a little bit of hum in the background, and that can get real annoying in the long run if you listen to that over a period of time.
Yeah, that's also an important algorithm. So this works in a similar manner. So we first analyze the audio file, because the problem is that the noise can be changing all the time. And you have to extract a noise print, somehow a fingerprint of the noise out of the audio file, and then you can subtract this noise print from the whole signal, and then just the normal signal stays and the noise is gone. So you have to analyze the audio first if this background noise is changing. For example, if we make an interview in a room, there will be a different background sound compared to when we go outside and there is another background sound. So you have to first classify these boundaries, and afterwards you just analyze these segments where the background is more or less constant and try to extract these noise prints. So this works like this. You just see where there is silence or where nobody is speaking. And in these segments, when nobody is speaking, you just take the noise, so there is nothing else. And this will be the noise print, and then you subtract it from the rest of the signal. And this removes the noise and the hum. And there are lots of other things, because this is actually very complicated, because often it's not good to have too much noise reduction. So there are also classifiers which decide how much noise reduction should be done, or maybe you don't need noise reduction at all because it is an important background sound which shouldn't be removed. So that's quite complicated.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's great, though, again, like we said earlier, that Allphonic simplifies it. You click it, it makes a decision for you, and spits out the file at the end that has all that noise and hum kind of reduced or maybe removed. My understanding is that you just got done releasing a Windows desktop app. You had a Mac app out for a while. What do they bring that the online app doesn't, or why would I want a Windows app or a Mac app if I have the online?
Yeah, exactly. We just released the Windows app, and the Mac app is already out 1 month. If you don't want to upload your audio files and download them again, so you just want to have it on your desktop, then these apps are of course great. And the thing is, the apps have not all the features as the web service, so they are just the audio algorithms. And the version which is now released, this is just the leveler, so the noise reduction is not included in this app. So this is just about audio leveling. But of course, if you're a broadcast company or whatever, and you have to process your audio files, then maybe you don't want to give your materials to an online service like we are. So they have to stay at your own computer. Or if you just want to avoid the up and downloading, then these apps are of course a great way to do that. And they support our development, of course.
There is a cost for the downloadable apps that you have for it. And that obviously for podcasters can be a deterrent. Again, the nice thing is with the online app, it's free. But again, if you aren't at a place where maybe you don't have great download speeds, uploading a pretty big file, a raw file to Allphonic takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, of course. It depends on your internet connection.
Yeah, absolutely here. So basically the thing that, just to be clear, the thing that if people want the app and they actually go to download it, what they're really getting they're getting fewer features. That's obvious, but they're also
Well, maybe I should correct it there. These are not fewer features. I mean, this app which we are speaking about now is called the Alphonic Leveler, and this is just the leveler, so all the loudness management features. It is just these algorithms and not all the metadata tagging and everything else, because it's just about audio processing, and there are actually more parameters you can select here than in the web service. So you can use it more complicated if you want or if you have to. But basically, these are the same algorithms as in the web service, of course.
okay. So if you want to if you really want to geek out in your audio and you want to really mess with the tiniest minute things and all you're interested in is the audio processing, it sounds like the app does provide an excellent service for that.
Exactly, that's the idea. Yes.
I know, again, for me as a podcast, when I'm looking at it, what I like again is the preset, which I'm assuming you can do. Can you do presets on the Windows and Mac apps?
Well, at the moment there are no presets yet because you don't have all the metadata or everything else which you want to store. But yeah, we will for sure add it in later versions when there are more features in the desktop version.
So I guess as a podcaster, if what you're really looking is something to level it and to mess with the audio levels and the normalization and stuff, it sounds like the apps are a great resource. But if you're really wanting something that streamlines the service, right now at least, the online version provides the metadata, the ability to store presets, and that sounds like an excellent avenue for a podcaster.
Yeah, it always depends, of course, what you have to do. I mean, if you are a podcaster, then the chances are very high that you want your audio files somewhere in the internet.
Yeah.
So you have to upload it at least once. And Allphonic just enables you to upload it to our site and not to your final hosting site. And then you can process it here, and afterwards we upload it to your hosting site or to multiple targets. So there is not much difference.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I do like about it is I don't need to download it again. I mean, what I've been doing has been downloading again so I can kind of listen to the file, but you really give the ability to listen to the process file when it's done, and then you can export it to Libsyn, which is a huge podcasting hosting service, or YouTube if you're creating a YouTube video, and you can cut and you can,
Yeah, maybe about YouTube, you can also just send your audio file to YouTube and select a cover image. Then we will, or if you select chapter marks and chapter images, then we will create the video to your audio file. So it costs you nothing. You just select the audio and select an image, and we will generate a video out of it, and you have it on YouTube for free.
Very good, very good. So right now, Allphonic, the online version is free. Are we ever going to see it, become a paid model in the future? I mean, how does that? What?
Yes, we will introduce a freemium model actually quite soon. So we are working on it. So the idea is that if you are just a not that big podcaster, then it's for free. And if you are a company, or for example, lots of our customers are universities which record their lectures and process them. So if you do more audio files, then you pay for it.
Okay, so you'll be limited to a certain amount of audio files, or does it depend on who you are? I mean,
it will be limited by the length of your audio file, so the total length what you are processing, because this is what the costs are for us, because processing needs time on our servers, of course, and this is what makes it expensive for us.
Understandable, and obviously you need to recoup your costs. You need to make money on it as well, so that's totally understandable. Any idea when we're going to see that coming down the pike?
I don't know.
Yeah, sometime in the future.
Yeah,
so keep your eye
for
on.
Sure.
Okay, this year sometime. If listeners want to try out Allphonic or and kind of work with it, maybe they haven't heard about it, where can they go to find out more information about Allphonic and maybe try the service out themselves?
Yeah, the best thing is of course our website. So it's allphonic.com, and there you can see at the first page there are just some information about Allphonic, and you can just create a free account and try using it with your own files. That's maybe the best thing you can do.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it is gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain.
Experience Dune like never before. The Dune Saga Podcast with David, Scott, and Jim lead you chronologically through the novels of Frank Herbert, Brian Herbert, and Kevin J. Anderson. Relive your favorite moments, join in the conversations, and let the spice expand your universe. The Dune Saga Podcast. Ride the sandworm to dunesagapodcast.com or to iTunes for more information. Make sure that you check out Allphonic.com. Let me know what you think. Again, email me at podcastingguru@gmail.com. Let us know your questions about Allphonic, what you're liking about Allphonic. Again, I love the way it just streamlines it. By the way, people are loving Goldwave. Jim Arrowwood from Jim's Sci-Fi Blog said, I've been playing with the software for a couple of hours now, and I'm finding it far better than anything I've used before. I have it set all the way I want, and I'm glad at least I won't have to worry about the recording software anymore. So Jim, I'm glad that you're liking it. And Lynette from the Bycast said, so far I love it. The copy and paste is so much easier than Audacity, and the menu is easier too. For a newbie, it's a lot friendlier. So that's awesome. Thanks for the feedback, Lynette and Jim. I have, again, one Goldwave code left. If you want it, let me know. I believe that's about it. That wraps up the show. Until next time, keep podcasting, stay learning, and by all means, keep listening.